committees are working diligently. I know a couple have wrapped up and we have to wait for the paperwork. And I don't know whether that paperwork will come through the House first or the Senate first. And it's just going to be a flop back and forth, but it'll be a wait. So we're not going to do anything right now. So I'm going to just tell you we'll stand it at ease until I'd say 4 o'clock. So just a quick reminder to everybody. Just a really quick reminder, we have interns and aides that are willing to help people pack their stuff out. So if you need some help, we've got some young people that are willing to give you a hand. Thank you. Just just a quick update. The last I heard, the Senate was caucusing, and we're likely not to get. We got a few things in the works, but we still haven't seen the paperwork. So I'm not. I'm going to kind of lay things down again until about 4:30. So just one of those days. Just a little reminder out there to everyone, Representative Sherwood has that card for that new baby Byron boy or girl, whichever it may be. If you would like to sign that card that congratulates him, that'd be awesome. need the goat. The House will please come to order. House will please come to order. I think during the course of the last few days, I don't know if you guys will be able to hear this. I'll wait till you're done talking on the floor, and then I'll do my little joke. It's a joke, so it's definitely not as important as what you're doing. But I think over the last several days, we've all felt like this. Just saying. Okay, one more. This is Chris Carlson's. It's a screaming goat. All right. With that, it looks like we have some joint conference committee reports. So it looks like we have joint conference committee. We are at that order of business of consideration of joint conference committee reports. The first report for our consideration is joint conference committee number 1 on House Bill 33. Chairman Northrup?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Please move that joint conference committee report.
Thank you, I will. I was just trying to remember the wording.
So you move joint conference committee report number 1 on House Bill 33.
I move Joint Conference Committee number 1 on report on House Bill number 33, message number 412.
Perfect.
And I will explain it. Okay, so what we did is we went over and we talked to the Senate and asked them, this is on career technical education grants. They had stricken out the grant, or not the grant portion, they had stricken out the contribution by the community back into it. And so we agreed with that. And then they also deleted out that we had a first preference and a second preference to be in order so that school district could stack the money a little bit. The Senate wants to be able to make sure that they expend all that money first before they get more money. So we came to an agreement, and that language is, as you see it, it says, and the amounts from the special reserve funds created under Wyoming Statute 21-13-504, which is an account that schools have to be able to put money into, 10% of their money into, will be for supplies, materials, and equipment for career and technical education programs. And then the last part of that is second, and in delete second and insert further is the last part of an amendment that we had to agree on, which is that portion of you got to spend the money first or it goes into this account. And so there's no stacking of money except for in that one account that's created in Wyoming statute. Is that clear as mud?
Chairman Northrup will find out. Chairman Brown,
questions.
Representative Brown, anybody? All right. We're voting on joint conference committee number 1 on House Bill 33. A majority of the elected members is required to adopt the report. The chief clerk will please call the roll.
Vote aye.
Allemand, Allred, Andrew, Angelos, Banks, Bear, Berger, Brown, Burkhart, Byron, excused, Chadwick, Chestick, Clouston, Conrad, Crago, Davis, Eklund, Haroldson, Harshman, Heiner, Henderson, Warnock, Jennings, Knapp, Larson Lloyd, excused, Larson JT, excused, Lawley, Locke, Nyman, Newsom, Nicholas,
Excused.
Nemec, Northrup? Oakley? Obermuller? O'Hearn? Olson? Ottman? Pendergraft? Henn? Provenza? Rodriguez Williams? Sherwood? Singh? Slagle? Smith? Stiff? Storer? Strock? Stivar? Tarver? Trujillo? Walters? Ward? Washut? Western? Winter? Wiley? Yin? Zwanitzer Dan? Zwanitzer Dave? Speaker Summers? Ottman, can you confirm? I'm sorry? Thank you. Are there any changes? Heiner? Aye to no. Further changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 39 aye, 17 no, 6 excused.
By your vote, you have voted to adopt Joint Conference Committee Report Number 1 on House Bill 33. The next Joint Conference Committee report for our consideration is Joint Conference Committee Number 1 on House Bill 76. And that would be Chairman Zwanitzer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd move Joint Conference Committee Message Number 1 to House Bill 76 and ask for your favorable introduction. So members, you heard yesterday we had kind of a technical issue that we hadn't seen before. What our good colleagues down the hall did, besides eliminating 90% of my legislation, was they, just to remind you, this was a Practice Act bill that originally was supposed to help cosmetologists. Right now in the law, to license a new cosmetologist in Wyoming, the board has to meet as a whole, and that only happens every 2 or 3 months. And so we had all of these people passing their practice exams and would have to wait 2 or 3 months to come to Cheyenne when the board met and officially be licensed cosmetologists. So they brought that bill while we were opening Practice Acts. As many members of the TRW committee remember, we looked at all this other obsolete language and obsolete statutes and just said, hey, while we're in Practice Acts, let's clean it all up. One of our good friends down the hall decided that might be questionable when it comes to the single subject clause. So at her direction, we removed all of the bill besides the cosmetologist portion. When we had the bill in the House, the Veterinary Practice Board came to us and they said, hey, while you have this bill, we have this issue. And it deals with the national exam. To get veterinarians to practice in the state of Wyoming, you either have to be a practicing veterinarian for 5 years somewhere else, or you have to have passed their national exam within the past 3 years. And so we've actually had 3 people the last year who were in that 3 to 5 year window where they'd passed the exam, but they weren't a practicing veterinarian for 5 years, and so they're just on hold before those veterinarians can come into Wyoming. We put that amendment on in the standing committee in the House. It went down the hall, similar issue that came before the Senate Ag Committee. Senate Ag Committee voted to put that amendment, that language back in the bill, and somehow in the rigmarole, when it got to the floor, it just wasn't there. And so when the concurrence came over, even though we had voted on that language and it was discussed by our friends down the hall and voted on, when you actually looked at the amendment, that wording wasn't there. So quick correction went down. Our Senate colleagues conceded they did put that language in and it just wasn't inserted in the amendment. So now what the bill does is solely 2 things. It helps your cosmetologists to get licensed immediately after passing that exam, because the board has a new rules and regs procedure to enact that. And it also helps your Board of Veterinary Medicine to get veterinarians practicing in other states to be licensed to practice in Wyoming and don't have that 2-year window. Those are the only 2 things the bill does now. And while that, it's the second time in my career here down here where the same senator has cut out 90% of one of my bills. I'm happy to get this part through and ask for your favorable aye vote on the conference committee report.
Anybody want to speak to the Joint Conference Committee report? We are voting on Joint Conference Committee Report Number 1 to House Bill 76. A majority of elected members is required. To adopt the report, the chief clerk will please call the roll.
Alaman. Allred. Andrew. Angelos. Banks. Bear. Berger. Brown. Burkhart. Byron, excused. Chadwick. Chestick. Clauston. Conrad. Crago. Davis. Eklund. Haroldson. Harshman. Heiner. Henderson. Hornock. Jennings. Knapp. Larson Lloyd, excused. Larson JT, excused. Lawley. Locke. Nyman. Newsom. Nicholas, excused. Nemec. Northrup. Oakley. Obermuller. O'Hearn. Olson. Ottman. Pendergraft. Penn. Penn. Provenza. Rodriguez-Williams. Sherwood. Singh. Slagle. Smith. Stiff. Storer. Strock. Stivar. Tarver. Trujillo, excused. Walters. Ward. Washut. Western. Winter. Wiley. Yin. Zwanitzer Dan. Zwanitzer Dave. Speaker Summers. Are there any changes? Western, no to aye. Further changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 44 aye, 13 no, 5 excused.
By your vote, you have adopted Joint Conference Committee Report Number 1 on House Bill 76. The next Joint Conference Committee report for our consideration is Joint Conference Committee Number 1 on House Bill 195. Chairman Walters.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move Joint Conference Committee Number 1 on House Bill 195, and this is message number 404. And so this is the ARPA bill, as members recall. And so on the conference committee, if you have that pulled up on your computers, due to the failure of one of the Senate files, there was some extra money, and so the Senate utilized that money and put $9.3 million into the water programs, water sewer programs, and then $6 million into the local government funds that water and sewer are of a lower priority. So we took all 15.3 of that in the conference committee, and we put that all into the local government community projects, which is the one where the water sewer is of a lower priority. And then we modified their language. They had language that said all reversions were going to go to the Health and Human Services capital construction, and we modified that to say all reversions on a 50-50 split would go to the Health and Human Services capital construction as well as the water sewer programs. And so really the whole intent there was to try and get money into the programs that are really utilized, that communities are utilizing it the most. And so that's where we ended up. On the very first part, it's page 10, line 1, page 10, line 21, and page 10, line 22. That is all technical correction that was brought to us by staff, had really no impact to the conference committee. So like I said, the crux of it is the 15.3 million goes into that community projects.
Representative Stiff for your first time.
Mr. Speaker, just a question for the bringer of the conference report. For the $15 million in new money that goes into the local government supports project, will that create a new round of applications for that money? Because the applications for the first initial $50 million closed January 23rd. And I would think it would reopen the application process, but I just wanted to confirm that that's your understanding.
Anybody else for their first time? Anybody for their second time? Representative Walters.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for that question. And the question was, does this reopen the applications on the local government supports projects? And no, it doesn't. And really, that's where that technical correction, and the reason I say it's technical on page 10, line 21, is because we inserted that language elsewhere in the bill that said this is basically to continue working on down the project list. There is no opening this for new projects. And that was the intent. And that was the intent of the additional funding into the sewer water projects that were not part of this conference committee, but are part of this bill. That was the intent of the Health and Human Services projects that are part of this bill, again, not part of the conference committee. And so that was always the intent, as we increased the value from last year's bill, or the amount of money in these funds from last year's bill, is we wanted to continue working down this existing list and accomplish more projects as opposed to starting over with new lists and having things get reshuffled. And so that same occurrence is what's happening in this conference committee. Hopefully, wave your hands and I'll keep talking if you have another question, since we're on
We're
our,
voting. Oh, I'm sorry. No.
okay, I don't see anyone waving their hands. I was trying to get around this talking limit there, but we're set. Question.
We are voting on Joint Conference Committee Report Number 1 to House Bill 195. A majority of elected members is required to adopt the report. Chief Clerk will please call the roll.
Ellerman? Allred? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Bear? Berger? Brown? Brown? Burkhart? Byron, excused. Chadwick? Chestick? Clauston? Conrad? Crago? Davis? Eklund? Harrelson? Harshman? Heiner? Henderson? I'm sorry, Henderson? Warnock? Jennings? Knapp? Larson Lloyd, excused. Larson JT, excused. Lawley? Locke? Nyman? Newsom? Nicholas, excused. Nemec? Northrup? Oakley? Obermuller? I'm sorry, Obermuller? O'Hearn? Olson? Ottman? Pendergraft? Penn? Provenza? Rodriguez Williams? Sherwood? Singh? Slagle? Smith? Stiff? Storer? Strock? Stivar? Tarver? Trujillo, excused. Walters? Ward? Washut? Western? Winter? Wiley? Yin? Zwanitzer Dan? Zwanitzer Dave? Speaker Summers?
Aye.
Are there any changes? Northrup, no to aye. Newsom, no to aye. Nemec, no to aye. Further changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 33 aye, 24 no, 5 excused.
By your vote, you have adopted Joint Conference Committee Report Number 1 on House Bill 195. So, Chief, do we have any more goodies? You don't have another conference committee report? We'll find out. We're going to just stand at ease a second. I think there's some I think we just don't have the paperwork done on a few here. Yep. Messages from the Senate.
Message 485. Mr. Speaker, Senate File 120, Restoration of Civil Rights. The Senate adopted the Joint Conference Committee Number 1 report on the bill listed above by the vote indicated. Ayes 28, noes 1, excused 2. Message 486. Mr. Speaker, Senate File 76, Wyoming Digital Asset Registration Act. The Senate adopted the Joint Conference Committee Number 1 report on the bill listed above by the vote indicated. Ayes 28, noes 1, excused 2. Message number 13. Mr. Speaker, the Senate has elected Senator Tara Nethercott as a member at large to the Management Council by the votes indicated. Ayes 29, excused 2. Sincerely, Ellen Thompson, Senate Chief Clerk.
All right, we're at that order of business of more joint conference committee reports. So this would be Joint Conference Committee Number 1 on Senate File 76, Chairman Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move Joint Conference Committee Report Number 1 to Senate File 76 and do ask for your aye vote. So what this is, we had a standing committee amendment that increased the filing fee to register a digital asset and the annual fee. That, all of that's being kept on the Senate side, so you can see that if you're looking at this report online, you'll see the fees, the $300 fee becoming a $500 fee and the $150 fee becoming a $250 fee. So we agreed to keep all of that. What we agreed to remove from the standing committee amendment is the open requirement or the non-prohibition on a residency requirement. Instead, what we're putting back into the bill is that if you're going to register a digital asset on the Wyoming Digital Asset Registry, you have to be a Wyoming resident or your limited liability company or corporation has to be domiciled in Wyoming. So we're requiring residency now. And that is it. I ask for your aye vote.
We're voting on Joint Conference Committee Report Number 1 to House Senate File 76. A majority of the elected members is required to adopt the report. The chief clerk will please call the roll.
Ellerman. Allred. Andrew. Angelos. Banks. Bear. Berger. Brown. Burkhart. Byron, excused. Chadwick. Chestick. Clauston. Conrad. Crago. Davis. Eklund. Haroldson. Harshman. Heiner. Henderson. Warnock. Jennings? Knapp? Larson Lloyd, excused. Larson JT, excused. Lawley? Locke? Nyman? Newsom? Newsom? Nicholas, excused. Nemec? Northrup? Oakley? Obermueller? O'Hearn? Olson? Ottman? Pendergraft? Penn? Provenza? Rodriguez Williams? Sherwood? Singh? Slagle? Smith? Stiff? Storer? Strock? Stivar? Tarver? Trujillo, excused. Walters? Ward? Washut? Western? Winter? Wiley? Yin? Zwanitzer Dan? Zwanitzer Dave? Speaker Summers? Are there any changes? Slagle? Aye to no. Bear? Aye to no. Allemand? Aye to no. Locke? Aye to no. Further changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 43 aye, 14 no, 5 excused.
By your vote, you have voted to adopt Joint Conference Committee Report Number 1 to Senate File 76. The next report for our consideration, Joint Conference Committee Report, is Joint Conference Committee Number 1 on Senate File 120, Chairman Oakley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move Joint Conference Committee Report Number 1 to Senate File 120. And I ask for your favorable consideration. So we had a good little conference with the other side of the hall there. They agreed with an amendment that we had that I think was an important amendment our good chairman brought that makes it a misdemeanor offense for a violation of this law. And we agreed to remove the automatic restoration provision and go back to the 5-year period. Folks, having some sort of waiting period was important to the people at the other end of the hall, and honestly, I agree with that sentiment. And the reality is that is how this bill had been when it went through both houses, when it went through both committees. And I think it's important to have a period of demonstrated rehabilitation and reform. I do. And you know, I never thought I'd be someone up here fighting for felons' rights, right? But this bill, you know, the developing of this law is really what this process was all about. You know, we've seen collaboration and compromise, rinse and repeat, and we've made this bill better. And this is a bill that will help out some Wyomingites, right? And that's what we're here to do. And it's like I say, this has been a well-worked bill with a lot of compromise that's going to help some people out. I'd ask for your aye vote on this concurrence. Thanks.
We're voting on Joint Conference Committee Number 1 on Senate File 120. A majority of elected members is required to adopt the report. The Chief Clerk will please call the roll.
Allemand? Allred? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Banks? Berger? Bear? Brown? Burkhart? Byron, excused. Chadwick? Chestick? Clouston? Conrad? Crago, Davis, Eklund, Haroldson, Harshman, Heiner, Henderson, Hornock, Jennings, Knapp, Larson Lloyd, excused. Larson JT, excused. Lawley, Locke, Nyman, Newsom, Nicholas, excused. Nemec, Northrup, Oakley, Obermuller, O'Hearn, Olson, Ottman, Pendergraft, Penn, Provenza, Rodriguez Williams, Sherwood, Singh, Slagle, Smith, Stiff, Storer, Strock, Stivar, Tarver, Trujillo, excused. Walters, Ward, Washit, Western, Winter, Wiley, Yin, Zwaniter Dan, Zwaniter Dave, Speaker Summers.
Aye.
Are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 42 aye, 15 no, 5 excused.
By your vote, you have voted to adopt Joint Conference Committee Report Number 1 to Senate File 120. Chief, what do we got here? I might go work on a bill real quick, so I'm gonna stand at ease for just a minute. Can Representative Crago or Walters come up here? And I need to find out if we can meet on that water bill now, can we? So I'm gonna stand at ease for about 20 minutes and see if we can crank out one more conference committee. The House will please come to order. We're at that order of, so just an update. I think, I think we reached some agreement on the water bills. And so I think hopefully if we are able to get the one water bill over here fixed up, we'll do that while we're here, before we lose any more people to either crab night or COVID, which either one could knock people out of the picture, has over the years. So we are at that order of business of signing of enrolled acts. Do you need me to do messages first? No. Oh, let's do messages from the Senate. Get those done and then they're in.
He doesn't need it to sign and roll back.
Message 482. Mr. Speaker, House Bill 14, Civil Case Filing Fees Amendments. The Senate adopted the Joint Conference Committee Number 2 report on the bill listed above by the vote indicated. Ayes 20, noes 9, excused 2. Message 483. Mr. Speaker, the Senate appointed Senate conferees to meet with the Like Committee Number 1 from the House on amendments to House Bill 208. The Senate conferees are Senator Hicks, Senator Kinski, Senator Scott. Message 484. Mr. Speaker, the Senate appointed Senate conferees to meet with the Like Committee Number 1 from the House on amendments to House Bill 76. The Senate conferees are Senator Landon, Senator Baldwin, and Senator Steinmetz. Sincerely, Ellen Thompson's correction. I have one more message. Message number 12. Mr. Speaker, in accordance with Wyoming Statute 2812-102, the Senate reconsidered its failed confirmation vote on governor appointee and confirmed with the following vote. Ayes 17, noes 13, excused 1. Sincerely, Ellen Thompson, Senate Chief Clerk. We can do enrolled acts.
The first enrolled act for our consideration is House Enrolled Act number 88. The reading clerk will read the enrolled act.
House Enrolled Act Number 88 being original House Bill 152, an act relating to abortion, creating the Life as a Human Right Act, providing findings and purposes, prohibiting abortion, specifying criminal and regulatory penalties and civil remedies, providing exceptions, specifying applicability and severability, making conforming amendments, renumbering current provisions on abortion, repealing and removing obsolete or conflicting provisions, requiring rulemaking and providing for an effective dates, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I am about to sign House Enrolled Act number 88, being original House Bill number 152. I have so signed. Congratulations, Representative Rodriguez Williams. The next enrolled act for our consideration is House Enrolled Act 89. The reading clerk will read the enrolled act.
House Enrolled Act Number 89 being original House Bill 14, an act relating to courts, increasing the original filing fee required for commencing or filing civil matters in district court, providing appropriations and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I am about to sign House Enrolled Act number 89, being original House Bill number 14. I have so signed. The next enrolled act for our consideration is House Enrolled Act number 90. The reading clerk will read the enrolled act.
House Enrolled Act Number 90 being original House Bill 144, an act relating to senior citizen service districts, specifying how senior citizen service revenues may be expended, specifying requirements for the provision of services and programs, and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I am about to sign House Enrolled Act number 90, being original House Bill number 144. I have so signed. Congratulations, Representative Strzok. The next enrolled act for our consideration is Senate Enrolled Act 90. The reading clerk will read the enrolled act.
Senate Enrolled Act number 90 being original Senate File 151. An act relating to the insurance code, prohibiting specified actions by pharmacy benefit managers, allowing individuals to choose in-network retail pharmacies as specified, providing definitions, excluding certain claims as specified, amending the definition, requiring pharmacy benefit managers to provide contact information as specified, amending the process for when a maximum allowable cost repeal is denied, requiring pharmacy benefit managers to allow pharmacies to file appeals in electronic batch format, requiring pharmacy benefit managers to reimburse pharmacies as specified, authorizing pharmacies to decline and to provide pharmacy services as specified, making conforming amendments, requiring rulemaking, providing appropriations, and providing for an effective dates, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I am about to sign Senate Enrolled Act number 90, being original Senate File number 151. I have so signed. Next enrolled act, sorry about that, Chief. The next enrolled act for our consideration is Senate Enrolled Act number 91. The reading clerk will read the enrolled act.
Senate Enrolled Act number 91 being original Senate File 137. An act relating to planning and zoning, requiring subdividers to construct and pay costs for perimeter fences as specified, specifying requirements for perimeter fences for subdivisions, specifying financial responsibility for maintaining perimeter fences, requiring the inclusion of perimeter fences information in subdivision permit applications, repealing conflicting provisions, and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I am about to sign Senate Enrolled Act number 99, being original Senate File number 137. I have so signed. Next enrolled act for our next enrolled act for our consideration is Senate Joint Enrolled Act number 3. The reading clerk will read the enrolled act.
Senate Enrolled Joint Resolution number 3, being original Senate Joint Resolution 3. A joint resolution to amend the Wyoming Constitution by providing for the assessment of residential real property as separated property class for the purpose of taxation. Be it resolved by the legislature of the state of Wyoming, 2/3 of all the members of the two houses voting separately concurring therein. Section 1, the following proposal to amend the Wyoming Constitution. Article 15, Section 11 is proposed for the submission to the electors of the state of Wyoming at the next general election for approval or rejection to become valid as part of the Constitution if ratified by a majority of the electors at this election. Article 15, Section 11, uniformity of assessment required. All property except as in this Constitution otherwise provided shall be uniformly valued at its full value as defined by the legislature in 4 classes as follows. Gross production of minerals and mine products in lieu of taxes on the land where produced. 2, property used for industrial purposes as defined by the legislation. 3, residential real property. 4, all other property, real and personal. The legislature shall prescribe the percentage of the value which shall be assessed within each designated class. All taxable property shall be valued at its full value as defined by the legislature, except agriculture and grazing lands, which shall be valued according to the capability of the land to produce agricultural products under normal conditions. The percentage of the value prescribed for industrial property should not be more than 40%, higher nor more than 4 percentage points more than the percentage described for residential real property, or more than 40% higher nor more than 4 percentage points more than the percentage prescribed for all other property other than minerals. Except as provided in this subsection, this legislature shall not create new classes or subclasses or authorize any property to be assessed at a rate other than the rate set for authorized classes. The legislature may create a subclass of the residential real property for the owner-occupied primary residence. All taxation shall be equal and uniform within each class and subclass of the property. The legislation shall prescribe such regulations as shall secure a just valuation for taxation of all property, real and personal. That the Secretary of State shall endorse the following statement on proposed amendments. enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I am about to sign Senate Enrolled Joint Resolution Number 3, being original Senate Joint Resolution Number 3. I have so signed. All right. Chief, what do we got? We're gonna stand at ease to see if we can get that water bill out, so we can't get her done. All right. With that, I guess, Majority Floor Leader, if you'd come up here, I think when's this, just a second. Mr. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move the House adjourn until 9:30 a.m. tomorrow, the third day of March, 2023.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries. House will stand adjourned until 9:30 a.m. tomorrow, the third day of March 2023.